What is up, everybody? In this week's video, I'm using Luminar 4 to edit one of my images, and I've used this software before for multiple different plugins, but I've never used it just by itself, which is what I'm going to be doing today. So this is more or less kind of my first look into the program. Like I said, I've played with it before, but I've never gone all out with the program. So I'm going to be using it. You guys are going to get a first-hand look at my thoughts on the program. That is pretty much what we're going to cover in today's video. So we're going to jump right into Luminar 4. Now this is Luminar 4. It's not Luminar AI. So make sure that you have the correct program if you're going to try and follow along. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right in there right now. So I've got the image open here in Luminar 4. I'm in the edit tab and I'm just going to walk through all of these adjustments that I would use to edit this image. So the first thing I want to do is open this light tab, and I'm going to go in and just adjust a few things. First of all, I want to bring up the exposure because the photo is way too dark, and I want to add a little bit of smart contrast. Now, I honestly don't quite know how the smart contrast is different from just regular contrast, but I like using it and it turns out nice. So that's looking pretty good. I might want to drop the highlights. I might want to increase the shadows. You can go down to the advanced settings to get whites and blacks, which is really nice. And I'm actually going to bring these blacks up quite a bit and maybe reduce the highlights. Maybe we're going to add a little bit more smart contrast. No, maybe not. So now we can adjust the curve here to add a little bit of contrast. And going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to go up and reduce the brights in the brightest spots of my image. So I'm just kind of playing with this adjustment here. And let's actually bring this down. So we also have the option to use the curve here. I'm not going to bother with it right now, but we may come back to it later. Next, I'm going to go into the AI Enhance, and the AI Enhance is actually pretty cool. I usually just drag this AI Accent just a little bit, and then the AI Sky Enhancer. So it's going to, basically, the software is smart enough to figure out where the sky is and then enhance the sky. I actually like that all the way out like that. And let's go ahead and toggle that on and off. So that's looking really nice. Now we can go down into the AI structure, and on all of these things, especially when I'm using a software for the first time, I like to just kind of increase everything a lot and then go back and make some adjustments based on what I actually want to do. So this AI structure seems to add quite a bit of structure to the scene. It's looking pretty nice in the sky, but not really in the foreground. So what I might do is do Edit Mask and use a gradient mask here, and click and drag to create a gradient. And I don't really want to affect the foreground. So let's just go ahead and toggle this on and off. And you can see that we are just affecting the sky. Now it might be a little bit strong, so I might reduce it a little bit. And I think that's looking pretty good. Let's go down into the color and let's actually remove the color cast. So I really like having this feature to remove the color cast. The program is smart enough to know where the color cast is. And I'm actually going to leave this pretty high. Now you can see that it's greatly reduced our lightness of the image. So I'm actually going to go back up into light and I'm going to increase the exposure even more, just to bring back the lightness of the image, which I really liked. I'm going to go back down into color, and I'm going to toggle this now. You can see that we actually had this really like purplish tone in the image that we were able to get rid of here. And a lot of times you don't even notice that there's a color cast. So it's so nice to have this remove color cast feature. It's one of my favorite features about this software. We can go in and make some adjustments to each individual color. So if we wanted to go in and maybe increase the saturation of the oranges, we could do that here. But I may do that with a little local adjustment later. I haven't tried a lot of local adjustments here, but I'm going to try it in this video and just kind of give you guys my initial thoughts. I'm not going to do any black and white conversion, but I will go down into the Detail Enhancer. Detail Enhancer is really nice, and it's just like tonal contrast. So I'm going to increase these all to 20 just to start. A lot of you guys may have used tonal contrast in the Knit collection or on one or wherever it is. but it's really nice to kind of punch up those micro details is kind of the way that I look at it. It adds a little bit of a micro contrast, and I'm just going to toggle that off and on. I really like what that's doing. It's adding a lot of depth up here. We can also try to sharpen. I'm going to open the advanced settings here to adjust the sharpen here. I don't want to do a whole lot of sharpening to this image just because it's going to bring out a lot of noise, but we can bring this up and it actually does a really nice job. I'm pretty impressed. And let's do some detail masking here. So if we increase that or decrease it, it's going to make it more or less selective. We're going to add a little bit of details protection. These are the things when you're using a software for the first time. You've kind of just got to figure out what looks good on each image. And we might want to decrease that radius all the way, I think. And let's look at the masking here. So like I said, when you're using this for the first time, it's really hard to tell exactly the settings that are good. Whereas in the software that I use a lot, like Lightroom, I know exactly what settings are going to be good for my images. That is looking pretty good, though. I'm pretty happy with that. That is a lot of sharpening. We're actually going to lower it just a little bit because I don't want to over sharpen this. Let's go around 50 is good. Now we can go in and denoise. So if we want to denoise, we're going to zoom in. You can see that it's not too noisy, and there's not really any color noise except for maybe down here there might be once it loads out. But we can increase the color denoise to like 10 just to get rid of any severe color noise. And then we're going to increase the luminosity denoise. We're going to open the advanced settings as well. So we have the option to boost here. I actually might leave this as is, but let's just increase the luminosity denoise a little bit. And this might be a little strong. I want to make sure we're not losing details in our foreground here. And we definitely are. Let's toggle this off and on. You can see we're losing a lot of details in the foreground. I'm actually just going to reduce this to get some of those details back. And I might use a different way of denoising later, but that's looking a lot better to me. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now we have a landscape enhancer. We've got options to dehaze, golden hour, or foliage enhancer. I definitely don't want golden hour or foliage enhancer, and I don't think I want to dehaze because I actually like the amount of haze in this image. I think it adds a lot to the image. We've also got the option to vignette, which I will probably do last, like I do in most of my images. Let's go into the creative tab here where we've got a lot of options. We've got sky replacement, augmented sky, sun rays. All three of those have a lot of potential, but not for this image. The sky replacement is going to allow you to change a sky to drop in a new sky. Maybe you got a better sunset somewhere else, so you want to drop it in there. That would be where you do it. Augmented sky is going to be like where you can put in things like the moon. I mean, you can see here moon, mountains. You can add all these things to your image. Birds might look nice in this image, but I'm not a huge fan of adding birds to your image. So we're going to go without doing that. And then we've got sun rays. Sun rays are actually really, really nice. I'm going to make a tutorial in the future on how to use the sun rays because it's really incredible what you can do, but I'm not going to use it in this photo. I may use dramatic, however, so I'm going to increase the amount. And if I remember right, when I tested this a while back, dramatic just kind of adds a little bit of contrast like you can see in there. Let's go ahead and toggle this off and on. I'm going to lower this quite a bit because it is a little too strong for me. And local contrast. So you can see if we lower that all the way, yeah, I definitely want the local contrast to be pretty low. And let's toggle this again. So as I toggle this on and off, I kind of like what it's doing, but I don't like how it's reducing the saturation in the foreground. So again, I might edit mask and create a gradient mask, and we're just going to affect the sky here. And now when I toggle this, you will see that all that it is adjusting is the sky, which is exactly what we want. So we're just kind of adding a little more of what they would call dramatic to the sky, which is exactly what we want. We want this image to be really dramatic, to have a crazy looking sky. So for that reason, I'm just going to use this. Again, I like to lower the local contrast. I didn't find it necessary to have a lot. Of course, you do have advanced settings if you wanted to change the brightness or the saturation, but I'm pretty happy with it just like it is. Now, I don't want to use matte look on a landscape photo. Mystical can be all right, but I find that mystical is just really similar to an Orton effect, which you can actually do down here in the glow. So I'm going to open up the glow here, And we are going to increase the amount, and that's obviously way too much. Let's just go to soft focus, and instead of doing bright, I'm just going to do regular soft focus. I'm not actually crazy about that. How about soft glow? Now, the problem that I find with using soft focus is a lot of times it just looks like your photo is a little bit blurry, or maybe someone had blown fog in front of your lens. So it's not an effect that I'm generally going for. It can work on some photos if you mask it. You can see this is looking a lot better. Now the sky kind of has that glow, and you can increase the smoothness as well to kind of make things a little bit smoother, so to speak, to make it apply to a little bit more of the image and the contrast to be a little less harsh between where it's applied and where it's not. And I'm going to reduce that a little bit. You could choose to warm it up or cool it down if you wanted. You could choose to adjust the brightness. I mean, there's a ton of different options here. And I'm just toggling this off and on every time I make an adjustment so that I can see exactly what it's done to the image. That's looking pretty good to me. I'm liking that. You have the option for film grain or fog. I'm not going to use either one in this video, I don't think. Now we can go down to professional. We're going to skip the portrait adjustments. We're just going to go straight to professional. We're going to skip the portrait adjustments and go straight to professional. And we've got a lot of different options here with things that we can do. You can do some advanced contrast adjustments, which I haven't really found a huge use for quite yet, so I'm not going to use that. You can do an adjustable gradient if you want. You can dodge and burn, which is really, really helpful. And I have liked doing some dodging and burning, so we're going to give it a little test here. We're going to try to hit darken, and I'm just going to go in here. Let's just kind of paint on here and see what it looks like. And it is a little bit slow is one thing that I've noticed. You can see that it's way too dark there. So we're actually going to go ahead and hit reset. And I'm going to reduce the strength quite a bit. So by reducing the strength, we can paint it on a little bit slower. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not crazy about the way that you dodge and burn here. I would much rather do it as a local adjustment because it's much easier for me to go back and change things. But I did want to show how they have their dodging and burning set up. And I'm just going to leave that as is because I think the effect is fine, but I would do a majority of my dodging and burning in the local adjustments, I think. The nice thing is you can reduce the overall amount, which would be similar to like reducing the opacity. We can go in and do some color enhancer. If you wanted to split the color warmth, you could. So in this photo, I might want to cool down the highlights here, and I could warm up the shadows potentially. Essentially, the really cool thing about this is that you can kind of change the warm or cool colors to be a little bit different of a hue, which is a nice little selective thing that you can do. And you can see I do like what that's done. I've kind of added some blue in there, which looks really nice. Of course, you can do a photo filter or some split toning, neither of which I generally do that much. Maybe you could try the split toning to kind of add in some blues to the highlights, but I think I'm going to pass for now. So now when you want to make some adjustments here, you can do that using what Luminar calls an adjustment layer. We're going to go up here into layers. We're going to go ahead and hit to add a new layer, and we are going to add a new adjustment layer. Now, the thing about this is that you adjust this adjustment layer just like you did with this bottom layer here. So you can go in here to Essentials, and you can adjust it as you see fit. For this one, I think I want to reduce the saturation of the blues over here. So the way that I would do that is to go into color, or creative rather. So the way that I would do that is to go down here to color, and you can do a variety of things. You could try removing the color cast, which is going to kind of get rid of those blues. But I think the best way to do this would just be to go to blues and reduce the saturation. Now I can go back up here to my adjustment layer, and I can edit the mask. Now I can click to grab a brush, and I can simply just brush this in. So I'm going to paint here on this area because that is the area that I want to hit. So now you can see right here in this little black box, the white is what is being revealed from that layer, and the black is what's being hid. So you can see as I toggle this that we've made that adjustment to this area. So you can also go and hit edit mask and hit brush again, and you can go in here and kind of adjust this even more. Obviously, you want the softness at 100% for something like this, but I could reduce the opacity here to maybe 25%, and I could hit erase. Now, when I come in here with the eraser, I can just kind of soften up the edges a little bit. So I can come in here and just soften up the edges. And the other thing that you can do is actually hit this eye over here so that you are not seeing the mask, which is really helpful because now I can perhaps paint this in. And when you click, the mask shows, but when you release, the mask hides itself, which is a really nice feature to have. So you can see when I toggle this now, it looks a little bit more realistic, where we can see that adjustment that I've reduced the blues over here. So I think that's looking really nice. And there's a variety of other local adjustments that you can do that I might try on this image, but I kind of want to wrap up this video here. So the last thing that I want to show you is the spot healing abilities, because I know that's important to a lot of different people. So we're going to go back down to canvas and we are going to hit erase. Now this is going to create a brand new layer that we're going to be able to do some spot healing on. So the really cool thing is that it just automatically creates that new layer itself, so you can go back and edit it later if need be. So after that loads out, you'll notice you get this full screen image. And I like to hit Command plus a couple of times to zoom in. And now we can go in with the brush and hit all of these little spots that are really, really annoying and ugly on your image. Now, the cool thing about this spot healing tool is that you just click on the spots and the software will fill all those spots at once after you are done. So that is really nice because a lot of other software, you click once and it automatically fills the spot immediately, which can get really annoying if you have a lot of spots because sometimes it's pretty slow. So the nice thing about this is you can just select all of your spots at once, hit OK and let it load out, and then you can go make yourself another cup of coffee, grab some tea, grab a snack, whatever it may be, while it all loads out. So I think that's looking pretty good in terms of all the spots I have on this image. I'm going to hit Command 0 to zoom back out, and I'm going to hit done, and we will let that load out and see what it looks like. All right, so it's loaded back out now. You can go back up to layers, and it even says erased image layer, and toggle this off and on. You can see that it's done a really nice job fixing all of those spots. I think that it looks great. And so the last thing that I'd probably do to this image is to go down into Essentials, go down to Vignette, and apply a vignette. Now, I really like the vignette that they have here because a little bit does not go a long ways, which is actually really nice. So you do have to crank this quite a bit, but that is nice because it makes it easier to refine, in my opinion. You can change the size, you can do some advanced settings as well, and you can even add this inner light, which if you guys have watched many of my tutorials, you know that inner light is so nice on a vignette to brighten up that center. You know that I do it in Photoshop, so it's so nice to have this option here to just automatically check it on. I'm going to toggle that on and off, see how that looks. But after that is done, I think it's looking great. And that pretty much wraps up how I go about editing in Luminar 4. So it was really fun using this software for the first time to totally edit it. I really like how this is working, and it is a software that I would highly, highly recommend. Alrighty guys, so that is about it. That wraps up my tutorial here in Luminar. Now, like I said, this was my first look at the software, and I do think it's a really solid software with a little bit of room for improvement like any good software does. So I may be doing a video in the future comparing it to some of the other non-Lightroom alternatives, such as ON1, and a variety of other programs. So keep on the lookout for that video in the future. But that shows you guys exactly how I go about using Luminar. If you are interested in picking it up, please make sure to use my affiliate link down below. Make sure that I get a little kicker when you purchase the program. It helps support and fund these videos, and it doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is click the link. If you guys have any questions or you'd like to see any specific videos in Luminar later, please feel free to let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next weekend. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.